The energy on the set of The View was already electric when Sharon Osbourne joined the panel for what was supposed to be a casual discussion on royal affairs, mental health advocacy, and public image. Prince Harry, invited as a special guest, to talk about his ongoing projects and perspectives on privacy and media scrutiny, was seated comfortably when the first signs of tension emerged. As Whoopi Goldberg introduced the segment, everything seemed cordial. Sharon, known for her unfiltered opinions, greeted Harry warmly but had an unmistakable glint of challenge in her eyes. It started innocently, with Sharon asking Harry about his charity work and the Invictus Games, but it quickly pivoted when she brought up the controversial Netflix docuseries and the book that followed. "Don't you think exposing private family matters in such a public way contradicts your stance on privacy?" she asked bluntly. The studio quieted Harry, clearly caught off guard, composed himself and replied that his intent was to share his truth, but Sharon didn't let up. "Your truth," she interrupted, raising an eyebrow, "or the version that sells books and gains sympathy?" The audience gasped softly, the tension on set now fully tangible. Prince Harry leaned forward, his voice calm but firm as he tried to explain his motivations, saying that the story had to be told in order to address decades of mistreatment and media abuse. Sharon wasn't buying it. She clapped her hands lightly and sarcastically replied, "So now you're the royal whistleblower? Come on, Harry, you left the UK. You left the responsibilities, but not the spotlight." Joy Behar tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, but Sharon wasn't done. She accused Harry of wanting to escape royal duties, but still clinging to the benefits of the royal name. "It's like you want to be half in and half out," she said, her tone sharp. "You moved to America for privacy, yet here you are on every talk show promoting your story." Harry, visibly irritated now, countered by pointing out the distinction between controlled media exposure and tabloid intrusion. He said he wanted to set the record straight, in his own words, rather than be misrepresented. Sharon shot back, "Well, you've certainly told your version," over and over. The tension was now unmistakable as the other co-hosts exchanged uneasy glances. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to applaud or stay silent. The argument escalated when Sunny Hostin asked a question about Harry's views on press responsibility, a topic he's spoken about extensively. He began his answer by talking about the psychological toll media pressure has taken on his family, referencing his mother, Princess Diana, and the relentless paparazzi attention. Sharon interjected with an unexpected critique. "Don't weaponize Diana's name to justify everything," she snapped. "She was loved, yes, but she also had flaws like everyone else. Stop using her as a shield every time someone questions your choices." The studio grew eerily quiet. Harry, visibly stung, responded with, "I'm honoring her memory, not hiding behind it." Sharon countered, "Then do it with dignity, not a press tour." The back and forth had shifted from heated to deeply personal. Whoopi attempted to mediate, urging both to bring the conversation back to constructive dialogue, but the clash had already taken center stage. Viewers at home lit up social media, hashtags related to the spat trending instantly. Despite the uncomfortable vibe, neither Sharon nor Harry seemed willing to back down. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a full-blown philosophical and personal war. Unfolding live. At this point, Meghan Markle's name entered the discussion, further inflaming the dynamic. Sharon took aim, saying, "I think Meghan is playing the long game. Hollywood royalty, replacing British royalty. It's all a performance." Harry's face changed, his composure faltering as he firmly defended his wife. "That's completely unfair and rooted in ignorance," he said. Sharon shrugged dismissively. "Look, she's an actress. It's her job to perform. Don't be shocked when people don't trust her sincerity." The audience let out a collective groan, sensing how deep the disagreement had gotten. Harry snapped back, "You don't know her. You see what the tabloids feed you." Sharon was relentless. "We see what she shows. Don't blame us for having eyes." The temperature on stage rose, and even the usually composed Whoopi looked uncomfortable. Sunny tried to change the subject to Harry's environmental work, but the mood was too tense. Every attempt to steer the conversation failed. The argument having taken over the entire segment, the producers were reportedly scrambling behind the scenes, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let it play out. Viewers were glued to the screen, knowing they were watching something unforgettable. As Joy Behar stepped in with a measured voice, she tried to cool the fire by saying, "Let's remember, we all want better mental health awareness, and Harry has been vocal about that in helpful ways." Sharon nodded, but wasn't done. "Sure, but you can't claim to fight for mental health and then stir chaos for cash." That comment struck a nerve. Harry looked directly at Sharon and said, "You don't get to judge my motives. You don't live my life. You didn't walk through what I did." Sharon held her ground. "And you didn't live through the wars that tore families apart without writing books about it." That line, referencing her own experiences with family strife and public scrutiny, hit hard. The argument had turned into a war of credibility. Who had more right to speak on suffering, public life, and fame? Co-host Sarah Ann finally interrupted with a nervous laugh, saying, Okay, can we take a breath?" But Sharon pressed on. "I'm tired of these narratives where accountability gets replaced by victimhood." "Own your choices, Harry," he replied quietly. "I do. That's why I speak up." It wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Even as the tension refused to lift, the conversation veered into cultural differences and expectations, with Sharon pointing out how British people tend to deal with issues more privately, while Harry and Meghan's approach was seen as airing dirty laundry. Harry acknowledged the cultural gap, but defended transparency. "Silence is what destroyed so many in my family. Speaking up is the only way to heal." Sharon wasn't moved. "Healing doesn't mean monetizing," she said, folding her arms. "You've built a brand out of being the misunderstood prince. But maybe the world is just tired of your story." The words landed hard. The audience murmured again, and Harry paused, clearly choosing his next words with caution. "If that's true," he said slowly, "then maybe we need to look at why. That story still resonates with millions." Sharon shook her head. "It resonates because people love drama, not because it's noble." The panel sat in stunned silence. There was no laughter now, no casual banter. This was raw, live television drama playing out in real time with stakes higher than entertainment. Every word spoken had layers of meaning, touching on identity, legacy, and truth. Eventually, the show tried returning to its original script, moving on to promote a charity event Harry was involved in. But the emotional damage had been done. Sharon leaned back, letting the silence linger a beat too long before saying, "Look, I admire charity work, but good deeds don't erase hypocrisy." Harry's jaw clenched as he replied, "Then what does?" Silence. Obedience. He wasn't yelling, but his voice was thick with emotion. "You say I'm cashing in on pain, but you're using this platform to shame me. What's the difference?" Sharon raised her eyebrows. "The difference is, I didn't write a book whining about it." Gasps filled the room again. This time, it wasn't just confrontation, it felt like humiliation. Harry looked down for a moment, clearly shaken. Whoopi finally had to signal for a commercial break. The tension now impossible to ignore. The moment was brief, but the message had been received loud and clear. Sharon Osbourne had crossed a line that some agreed with and others found cruel, but no one could deny its impact. The internet was already ablaze with reactions and memes. It was no longer just an interview. It was a reckoning. Returning from break, Harry appeared more guarded. Sharon, on the other hand, looked unbothered, even smug. Whoopi tried to recalibrate the tone, offering Harry a chance to speak freely on his current mental health campaign. He thanked her, but gave brief answers, clearly exhausted from the earlier clash. Sharon jumped in one last time, as if to seal her point. "I just think the public is smarter than you give them credit for. They can see through curated sob stories." Harry turned to her and said, "And maybe they can also see through cynicism masquerading as honesty." The retort stunned even Sharon. There was a moment where her smirk faded slightly, as if taken aback. It was subtle but undeniable. Whoopi quickly moved the conversation forward, wrapping the segment as diplomatically as possible. But the emotional bruises were already visible. The interview was over, but the drama would linger. Sharon had delivered what many saw as a verbal takedown. Harry had defended himself, but the damage was visible in his posture, his tone. The atmosphere as the credits rolled felt more like a courtroom verdict than a talk show ending. Backstage, reports later revealed that producers were divided on how the exchange played out. Some felt it was television gold draw, unscripted and compelling. Others felt it was exploitative and left Harry blindsided. Sharon, for her part, reportedly left the set unapologetic, even joking with staff that she just said what everyone's been thinking. Meanwhile, Harry was described as introspective, declining further interviews that day. The clash became the subject of headlines. Think Pie.